What is up, everybody? This is Joe G checking in from the NESmaker studios. If you guys want to see before we go any further, there's a subscribe button somewhere in this general area. If you guys want updates on the NESmaker tools, or you want to play some new NES games and you're curious about where to find them, whatever, please subscribe. Whichever direction that button is, hit the button, and then you can find out more information about NESmaker and all the stuff that we're trying to do here. I wanted to go through today and show a few new features with NESmaker I think that are a lot of fun, especially for those of you guys who are deep using it and want to see what's coming in the next version, which I think will be called 5.0, although we might have a different name for it. What you see on the screen right now is this is my playground. You guys, some of you have heard me talking about this. This is where I work on the mechanics for Mystic Searches. And, while I'm doing that, I'm also working on mechanics for the next version of NESmaker as well. Austin is often making various areas of Mystic Searches of the game. And so one of the challenges that we've had recently is he'll make his screens. He's working on the desert area or this area that's kind of like the unwanted area. And I'll want to import them into my game here. The desert area would be down in this area, and the unwanted area is right here. Okay, but it is really hard in the current version to do this. In order to do it, what I'd be doing is I'd be, going to each screen, opening that up, going to screen, saving that screen, saving the tile set, making sure the tile set is a certain way, coming over here, loading up an empty screen, importing that screen, doing that screen by screen by screen by screen by screen, which is just insane for a communal working relationship like this. So what we did was, for the new version, and what you see in this black area here are undefined tiles in this tile set. Don't worry too much about that because we're still working with tile sets. You'll see them every time I pull up one of these. This tile set has changed slightly, which is why we're still working on this area. Let's say I want to export just these screens right here. What I can do is I can now go to Map, Merge Maps, and I can then click on the screens that I would like to export. So let's just say I want to export these screens right here. And I'll just do this whole area right here. So now these are highlit, and I could put export tile sets, which will also export the tile sets along with the screens that I've selected, and I'll hit export. And I'm just going to save this somewhere. I'll save it to my desktop right now. I'll put test merge screens. Hit save. Okay. Now I'm going to go into my game, and I'm going to go to Map, Merge Maps, and I want to import. It was on my desktop, and I called it test merge screens, and I want to merge the tile sets as well. And I can tell it what screens do I want to merge into this game. And maybe I only want to merge those from this file. I want to leave these ones, so I'm merging these 12 and I'm leaving these 9 not merged yet because maybe I'm not done with them. Like we saw, I had that problem with the tile sets. I still got to fix that, right? Now I can hit merge, and you'll see those 12 screens are now part of this game. So you can see how much faster that is rather than exporting and importing. Oh my God, it would take forever to do that. It also merged in those tile sets that created these, so I don't have to go in. Now, keep in mind, that's destructive. So if you have 2 tile sets that are in the same slot, basically, this would overwrite those. But you could also just merge them without merging the tile sets as well. And we're making that a little bit clearer and easier to make sure that you have control over what tile sets you're merging and things like that. But right now, just that is such a time saver for our workflow. But for something possibly even cooler for you guys who are, maybe working solo and that feature isn't that important, I want to show you the new macros that we've got for creating some HUD elements. And there's going to be more that are added to this as well that make adding HUD elements very easy if you're not afraid to write 1 or 2 lines of code. So here's the traditional way to work with HUDs was you would go to HUDs and boxes. And what you're going to notice is I actually took away the actual aura. I used to have empty circles there, empty crystal balls, and when you had full health, they'd fill up. Well, let me test my game, and what you're going to see is you're going to see that crystal ball actually there. And it used to be, so there it is. It used to be where what I would do is I would, have a variable like my health, and I'd give it an initial value, and then in my HUD elements, I'd go there and I would put in the element that I wanted to use, and I'd make it a variable tiles, and I'd say what I want to be the full tile, what I want to be the empty tile, and that would automatically draw the stuff. And it's a very complicated, overly complicated code base that does this. So what I did was I streamlined that into a simple code base. We have a new we do have the handle HUD code. And now we have the handle HUD updates code. Basically, the handle HUD code handles everything that happens if the screen is turned off. But when the game is running, we have a different set of updates that happens when the screen is turned on, since the only time you can update the screen like that is when the screen is turned off. It has to wait for the V blank in order to do these updates. So anyway, what this is basically saying is if this variable right here, if the first bit is flipped to a 1, it's going to do this first HUD update, which I'm going to use as a health bar. And if it's not, it skips it. And if this second bit is flipped to a 1, it's going to do HUD update number 1, and so on and so forth. And you'd have 8 possible bits with 8 possible pieces of code. And that code lives right here. So let's take a look at that code for a second. That would run this code, HUD update bit 0. Let's take a look at that. And here it is. And here's the new macro. It's that simple. Draw a health bar. Okay, where on the screen in terms of X? Where on the screen in terms of Y? What are your, how many, what's your full health? How many places would you have if you had full health? How many possible boxes, heart containers are there? And how many full containers do you want to draw? Here I'm drawing a variable number of full containers based on what my health variable is. What do you want to be the full tile value, and what do you want to be the empty tile variable? And don't worry about this. This is no longer used. So basically we have the empty and the full tile, and I'll show you these in a second. So let me test the game, and we'll look at the code in tandem. It's going to draw it. So there we go. And if we look at this in tandem, let's see if I can, let's pull this right here. So what's happening is at position 7 over and 2 down, it's drawing 6 basically empty containers, and then it's filling however much health I have. So it's making 6 full ones. And then this is the tile that it's using for empty, and this is the tile it's using for full. So if I look at my picture processing unit, I can see that this right here, CA is full and CB is empty. So CB is empty, CA is full. Okay, really easy to make modifications to this. So let's say I just want to put this up higher. I could just change this, instead of a 2, I could change it to a 1. Hit save. So now I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to re-render that. Where am I? There we go. Let's re-render that. And now it'll draw my health bar a little bit higher. Okay, let's say I want there to be 7 health. Now, 7 health possible. Now, don't forget, I only have 6 health to start the game with, and I can actually set that here. So let's give my character at the beginning of the game only 3 health. But he'll still have, right now he'll still have 6 health containers. Okay. So now I have only 3 health, but I have 6 health possible. And I could also, change, let's say I want, let's see. Let's say, whoops, I keep bringing that file up. Let's minimize that. Let's say that I also want 7 max. So there we go. So now it'll draw 7 blank spots, and only 3 of them will be full. So you can see how quick I can start to modify that and how easy it is. Okay, let's put it back to how I had it with 6 health to start the game with. And let me make sure that took. Yep, okay. And I want this to be at 2, and I want my max to be 6. And save that. Let's make sure that everything's okay. Oops, this one, not that one. This one. There we go. Okay, so that's really great and everything, but oops, stop. Okay, but how else could I use this? I'll give you one great example. Let's say you also wanted to have your boss meter, how much health your boss had. Okay, I made a quick boss meter script since I do have a monster on that screen. I have this little bug looking dude. If I run into him, my health goes down. It just changes the my health variable and then sets that HUD script to run. So if I run into him, I recoil, and if I run out of health, I die, starts over again. Okay, so let's give him some health that I can see though. Let's change where it says XP. Let's change that to boss real quick. So I'm going to go to my HUD, and I'm going to go to HUD assets, right HUD. Instead of saying XP, I'm going to have it say BOSS. And then we'll give him like, 3 boss. And we'll make it this little guy right here too instead of the heart. So the boss will have 3 possible health. All right. So we'll do that. Then we're going to go to my monster. Make sure that that monster has 3 health, which he does. And what I did was, if you remember looking at this script, it's the first thing I showed, it says, okay, if this first bit is flipped, it does this update. If the second bit is flipped, well, I already have the second bit flipped in my code when I attack the monster. I've already set that up. But right now, it does this script right here, HUD update number 1. Let's take a look at HUD update number 1. What we're going to see is, right now by default, it's set to a blank script. So instead of setting it to a blank script, let's set it to HUD update scripts, one that's called update boss bar. And I'm going to edit that just so I can take a look at it. What this script is doing, and this is really just a testing script, is it is looking at the first object on the screen, whereas my player is usually the 0th object on the screen. This would be the one that immediately is created after the hero. In this case, there's only 2 objects on the screen. You'd have to figure out how to represent your boss object. This is just one example of how I could do it with this script. Is the first object 0 will be the player, and the next one will be object 1, which would be the other monster. So I'm going to take that other monster's health, and I'm going to store it into this variable. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the hero. So in draw health bar, except I'm going to draw it in a different position. And I don't think this position is exactly right yet, but we'll work on it to get it right. And I'm going to give it a maximum of 3, and it's going to draw however much health he has. And instead of CB and CA, I think it was CB and CF is the last one on that row. And I might have that backwards, but let's take a look. All right, so now I'm actually going to get the monsters, the boss meter drawn. And let's see. And I got to put it, yep, and I got to put it over a little bit further. So I got to put it over 2 more from there. So, easy enough. I'm going to come over here, and instead of being at 18, 19, 1A is the hex value for 2 more over. And now this boss meter should just work, and it will observe that monster's health as well. So my meter observes my health, and his observes his. And it should. So let me see what just happened there. It might have been trying to update them both at the same time, and I don't have a protocol for that right now. There we go. And he's gone. So So that's the new sort of feature with the macro, and we're going to be doing a similar macro for, you know, drawing sprites to the HUD, drawing values to the HUD, and things like that. But that was the hardest one for most people to wrap their heads around, at how they could make, you know, a boss meter or ammo meters or things like that that functioned like the life meter. And getting into the actual HUD and boxes, this was supposed to be the easy way, but people, I sort of read you guys from the forums, writing that 1 or 2 lines of code doesn't seem to be that difficult for you guys, especially when, you know, the arguments are pretty easy to understand, and you can just sort of play around and see the results. So I wanted to show you guys those 2 things as far as new developments in NESmaker and Mystic Search's development. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I can't wait to show you what's next week.